Well, I'm just excited to have everybody here today. Thank y'all for coming out on a Sunday and being with us. Really pleased with our football team in our first week of practice. We still haven't gotten into full pads yet, but we'll be there on Tuesday. And looking forward to seeing as the competition cranks up at all the positions that we have. Really pleased with our leadership, pleased with how the young men have come in shape. Obviously, they were here all summer, so it's a whole different deal nowadays. But Billy Brown, Gregory Bourne, and our strength and conditioning staff have done an outstanding job with those young men. So competition is high. We're having a good time and enjoying it. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you.
Hey, Coach. In spring, I think at the start of spring practice, you said from practice 1 to practice 15, you want to see a growth, and you saw that. So here in the fall, from practice 1 earlier this week until week 1, what are you still hoping to see, and what do you think you're going to see?
Well, I mean, we're testing them pretty hard. We're doing some things to where everybody's getting reps at the same time, and it puts a taxing on their body, on their conditioning. I want to see how quickly the new guys that we've brought in, whether they're freshmen, whether they're transfers, how quickly they can catch up to where they need to be so they can compete and help us in week 1. I think it's important that we find out the pieces and put them in the right places so that when we go to Cincinnati, we've got everybody a chance to go out and win.
How big is it having Parker back, not just because he's a talented quarterback, but also from a leadership aspect?
It's bigger than me. It's bigger than anything. I mean, Parker probably will leave here the most decorated player in EKU history, arguably, and he deserves that. He deserves that for his decision. It took a very, very mature decision to come back. There were factors that we met, that other schools met, and I appreciate the people that got involved with that, but that wasn't really the most important thing to Parker. The most important thing was his love for EKU, his love for Richmond, his love for the school, not just the football team, and the love for his fellow teammates.
Most guys like that, when they come back, they want to take a step forward. How crucial has Maxwell Smith been for his development?
It's been a good change. Trent Stillman did an outstanding job with Parker, and we miss Trent. But bringing Maxwell in and bringing in some new ideas, some different ideas, it's good for Parker. It challenges his brain. It expands his brain. We sent him down to the Manning Academy, so we spent time down there this year and got exposed there. He's been to a couple other different trainers and got exposed that way too. So just doing everything we can to make sure that he's ready for that next jump. And he knows he's got to improve on some things, and he's not perfect by no means, but none of us are.
Coach, I feel like we've heard a lot about some of the guys that we lost from last year's team, but the offensive line, an area that you are kind of an expert in, if you will. But talk about the offensive line, those guys up front, and what you're expecting from them. Obviously, they got to protect Parker, but they've also got to open up those lanes for the running backs.
Right. Really, I think everybody knows about our 2 tackles, and both of them are very talented young men. We're inexperienced in the middle. Not a lot of game reps right there, except for Vincent Mullins started every game last year, so I shouldn't say it like that at left guard. But our center and our right guard will be inexperienced guys. This is the time that they're gelling together. They're learning to understand how each other plays, how each other does things. And then we have to continue to develop our depth. We're probably not as deep at that position as we were last year with experience. I think we have some talent there, but we're probably not as experienced in that. So we have to continue to gel, come together. They're learning to strain a little more. They're learning to do some things. I think we've added some good pieces on defense. Iron sharpens iron, and I like where we're going with the offensive line right now.
Coach, nice to meet you. Forrest Tucker with ABC 36. Nice. You have a new conference this season, and it's new opponents and just new everything, but you do have some guys that like Parker who are back. With those two things, that duality, what's your outlook when you look at a really big fresh start for this whole program and also the university?
Well, I think for our fans, I think it's something that is, unique and different because they've got a chance to go to Utah Tech out in St. George, Utah, which I hear is gorgeous, and that's the one that everybody seems to be talking about. Obviously, the non-conference schedule speaks for itself, but and then go to all, some familiar foes with Austin Peay, Central Arkansas, but also, Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton State, and the teams out in Utah. I think it just shows our fan base that our administration is serious about wanting to advance the football program and our athletic program in general, and I really appreciate that.
One more for you, Coach. Just looking at historically, and even that's before you got here, you guys have had 7 wins, a lot of them coming at home and everything. What's the key to taking, or keys to taking the next step in trying to get 8 and 9? And then continuing your success with bowl games and, having regular season titles.
Right. We, our consistency in our performance, which is the most important thing. I mean, in the games that we've lost, they've been tight games, but, we have to be better at finishing games, at making sure that we're playing 60 minutes instead of 58 or 56 or whatever it is. Tighten the screws a little bit, increase our talent, which I think we have, and do a better job coaching. I mean, when it comes down to it, if the other team beats you, it's probably all 3 phases, players, coaches, and then overall you made a mistake somewhere. And we have to continue to practice to expose them in those situations. And so when we get out here on Roy Kidd Stadium or get away from Roy Kidd Stadium, as you brought up, they can make those plays.
You mentioned the non-conference schedule. You open with 2 tough opponents. What goes into that, trying to really test your guys right out of the gate? Well,
I think I hate to keep saying it, but it comes from an SEC mentality. That league is so tough that it prepares you for postseason. And obviously, we had a tough schedule last year, and it didn't really prepare us the way we needed to. We didn't go take it on like we needed to, I should say. But I think when you do that, I think it excites your fan base, it excites your football team and your program and everybody that touches your program. They're 2, really tough opponents. I mean, one was in the college football playoffs 2 years ago, and the other one is Mark Stoops in Kentucky. I mean, probably the greatest run in Kentucky football history. So there'll be challenges, but if you're going to play, you're going to coach. That's what you want to do. And I don't want people that are scared to go out there and do that. I want people that are going to go out there and compete, put their pants on, go out there and knock some people in the teeth, and that's what we have to do to have the ability to win.
We know about Parker, Braden, names like that we are familiar with. Give us a name that maybe some folks are not going to be as familiar with that you're really excited about for the team.
Well, I mean, I think, offensively, you're talking about maybe some guys like Jalen Burbidge, from up in Lexington, or Jacob Horn, two new receivers that we have brought in, and have had a good camp so far and are really working to be better. Jaden Smith is a name that gets left out all the time. And I can't say it enough. Jaden Smith from Grayson, Georgia, who's been here 4 years, has been our most consistent football player besides Parker in our program. He's really good. We're 2-spotting yesterday, and he's working his tail off, and he's beating coverage left and right. Now he does a lot of the dirty work, so he doesn't get a lot of the glory. He's a really good football player. Defensively, I like where we're going with our secondary. I think, Chris Franklin and Mike Dietzel have done a nice job of getting those guys understanding where to go. Guys like, KJ Figures, Mike Smith, Tariq Henderson, they're doing great things back at Nick Cheeley at our safety position. All 4 of them are safeties. I really like where they're at. The addition of Frankie West, I think people will understand that he's a really seasoned football player and has done a nice job in practice.
Coach, I know you focused on this season, but just in a broad scope, if I may, I know you guys have been switching conferences, and the future of the program is also a big deal, kind of, where you want to get to soon. So how important is this season, knowing, kind of just to prove that, EKU belongs up there, knowing that's out of your hands, but how important is this season to prove that can be an option?
Well, I think every season is important, and I don't mean to say that in any disrespect. I just, I don't look at it like that. I look at it like every time I step on the field, I want to win. And whether it's Kentucky, Cincinnati, or whoever. You know, it's important to win. We work way too hard to go out there and not win. And when I say we, I mean our players, our support staff, our coaches, our administration, our fans. And so it's important to do that. And, EKU is known to being a consistent winner there for a long time under Coach Roy Kidd. And we have to continue to work our way back to that and create our own history. And I think it's important. The other people will notice. Beating Bowling Green last year, they noticed, and, if anything could happen this year, they would notice. But, they also want to be around a consistent winner, and that's what we have to get back to doing.
Coach, you've had a lot of NFL programs on campus in the past couple weeks. I mean, and I kind of can't count them on one finger. Or on one hand, rather. I was going down the Twitter feed last night. And you do have some guys that could play at the next level for sure. How have you fostered those relationships and brought these teams to Richmond where, it's a time of year they're really busy, right. And it's a lot for them to come out here. What's gone into that?
Well, I think the biggest, I'd like to think it's me, but, and I know a lot of the guys from being in the profession for 30-some-odd years. But, it's our talent. It's Parker McKinney. It's Josiah Ezram. It's Peyton Collins. And then they walk out there and they see who else we got out. I mean, they're asking about who's this guy, and who's that guy. And I think they realize from last year we had, we got 3 right now, potentially 4. Dak is flying all over the country trying out right now. And then we've got, TK and Matt at the Titans and Willie at the Jaguars. And, they know we're going to recruit at a high level. And we're going to do what it takes to get really good football players here, to play. And so they're going to start checking us out. I mean, Josiah was a guy when we got here that was a nose guard that played extra point field goal the whole time. And then we finally moved him to O-line, and he marinated there for a year, and now he's developed into one of the top tackles in the country.
Watching the team pictures, it seemed like the senior class isn't huge. How have you seen some of the younger guys step up and fill those leadership roles and starting positions ultimately?
Well, it's a great point. We only have 7 seniors, and so we have seen some of those guys step up. And, the biggest thing they have to do is, in football, you have to earn it on the field. And you can talk all you want to. You can be a great person all you want to. And I think that's great. We want all that. But when you step out on the field, you have to be a hard worker and a playmaker. You can't be a hard worker and not a playmaker, and you can't be a playmaker and not a hard worker. And we've got a good core group of young men that are doing that. We haven't voted on captains yet just because of what you said. I think I know who's going to be one of them, but the rest of them, I don't know who they'll vote on. So I want to give them time together to play together and to get to know each other a little better before we do that.